You mentioned the heat there. I meant to ask you, and last time we saw a headline that said heat wave in Glasgow. Did it really push those limits?
It was hot. It was, I mean, it might not sound hot, but it was 27, 28. It seemed hotter than that too. And it seems like a long time ago, I can tell you, because the last few days have not been hot at all. It's been more like Edinburgh 1986 Commonwealth Games sort of weather.
Certainly not off-putting, though, because I thought the crowds at the athletics, whether they're just the heats or the finals, it was fantastic atmosphere and really good numbers.
Oh, the crowds everywhere. I mean, the netball was basically full today. The boxing was full. Swimming was full. Cycling was full. I mean, the crowds have just been superb. And as you say, the track and field, which is a big stadium, Hampden Park, was full every day.
Mm. Is there any aspect of the organisation that you were disappointed with? From afar, it's very hard to tell.
Well, a bit of the scheduling was funny. I mean, I thought the scheduling of events was bizarre. For instance, just to give you one example of many, Nikki Hamblin ran in the 1,500 metres heat, then the 1,500 metres final late at night, the last event on the program. Next morning, she's running. She ran in the 800 metres, and then the next morning, that's right, and then she's running in the 1,500 metres the next morning. So I don't know why those two events, which obviously athletes will double up in, would be back-to-back like that. So she ended up having 5 races in 5 days, which is stupid when you've got 8 days of athletics, so they could have been spread out. And that sort of thing, Lauren Boyle swam in the 800 metres final one night, and the next morning was swimming the 400 metres heats. Well, why would you put them back-to-back? So that sort of thing happened throughout the games, and I thought very odd scheduling, some of it. But that would be a minor quibble overall, I'd have thought.
And just looking at the atmosphere, they were saying it's the friendliest game since Christchurch. Is that a tag that it deserves?
They were very friendly, but they're usually friendly, aren't they? Melbourne was lovely. Delhi was nice, actually. Most of them are good. Manchester was good. I think generally they were friendly games. This was a very nice game. The people of Glasgow were great. The volunteers were just fantastic. But it's often the way. It's a nice atmosphere, the Commonwealth Games.
And we didn't actually mention that blue ribbon event, as they call it, the 1,500 metres, isn't it? Well, it's another late run, but another sort of bridesmaid performance.
Yeah, you'd have to think that was a gold medal thrown away. He finished so fast, and he had so much left at the end that clearly if he'd begun his sprint 20 metres earlier and from not so far back in the field, he would have won the gold medal. And I'm not surprised he was very frustrated afterwards, because I think while it's always nice to pick up a medal of some sort, he felt straight away that he'd squandered a golden opportunity to be first.
There's always talk too of funding and the lack of it for some sport and an excess for others. Is the Commonwealth Games a benchmark, if you like, that they should set in terms of giving funding? If you succeed at the Commonwealth Games, should it entitle you naturally to extra money, and vice versa if you fail?
Yes, I think that high-performance sport, high-performance New Zealand has been going that way, and that and so they should in this modern day and age. But let's see if they do, because I think it'll be a big call for them to say we're not going to give swimming much money because they were very disappointing, whereas judo, boxing, weightlifting and so on perform well, so we'll give them some money. They'd be fine words, but I'd be very surprised if they were backed up by actions.
On the basis that swimming is such an international sport and we can't afford to ignore it, that kind of thing?
Yeah, too big to fail sort of thing. Just like track and field, they're always going to give money to track and field, and swimming, you feel.
I always think with swimming, though, it's going to take a freak, and that's, all due respect to Daniel Loader, a one-off guy, rather than somebody who comes through the system is more likely for us to succeed that way.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Moss, a Daniel Loader, even a Moss Burmester, and now a Lauren Boyle, but it's pretty hard to have more than one per 8 or 10 years, isn't it? I think you're right, they're sort of freakishly good, but we just don't have the depth of the squad where they're all pushing each other for places in the team to push them to a better level, which is what the Australians and the English have got. And
is Lauren Boyle a prospect for the Olympics? Is looking at her age, do you think, I know she's made a final, could you repeat that in Brazil?
Oh, I think, well, it depends if she's interested. She made 2 finals in London and finished 8th and 4th. She's won 3 World Championship medals, and she's won a gold medal in Glasgow, so she's obviously good enough, but as you say, she's 26 and she's been in the team since 2006, so that would mean that she would have had to have a career at the top of 10 years if she went to Rio and that's an extraordinarily long time for a swimmer. Not absolutely convinced she'll last that long, but I hope she does.
And talking about the sevens, of course, all the talk here is that come Olympics, it's going to be Sonny Bill Williams, Liam Messam, Ben Smith. It's time for us to sort of look at the absolute best rugby players that are around, rather than maybe that specialist seven squad.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't be picking Sonny Bill, incidentally, either. Great footballer though he is. I think what was shown to be blindingly obvious in the sevens final was what you want is pure speed, which is what several of those South Africans had, and maybe Sevilla and those sort of people. But you certainly can't get by just picking people who are not in the All Blacks or in the Super or who have Super 12 contracts. You can't go to a level below that and expect to win an Olympic gold medal. That was obvious, and maybe the fact that we lost has done us a favour by reinforcing that.
And I think I was a doubter of team sports going into Olympics and Commonwealth Games. You have to say the sevens has been a success at certainly this level, and I'm sure it will be at the Olympics in terms of worldwide interest.
Yeah, sevens and netball are two of the really, really big Commonwealth Games sports. People talk about them beforehand, and there's massive interest in them. So they're very successful sports at this level, and I'm sure that netball would be a good Olympic sport too, but not to be.
And just looking at that final table, I see we ended up sixth, but just behind India. They've got a few more people than we have.
Yeah, they have, but quite a lot of their people would have no chance of ever competing in sport, would they? I mean, in different circumstances, you feel like everyone in New Zealand has a genuine chance to play sport for their country if they're good enough and interested enough. Pretty difficult in India, but as you say, it's a big population over there. I think we certainly performed above our weight again, which is the New Zealand way, and you have to say we did it again. That's a lot of gold medals we won, and 45 medals overall is not to be sneezed at. And
just finally on Commonwealth Games, I see Rob Woodell seems to come out of the shift of mission role with some acclaim. You've had much to do with him?
Yeah, I ran into him at a few events, and he was very enthusiastic, and it was funny watching him cheering vociferously at the boxing and so on when you think of him as being a rower and a yachty and a rugby player. But he covered the whole gamut of sports. He loved the mountain biking. So, yeah, he embraced it all. He brought a nice feel to the team. And one thing, Tom, at least we got rid of half of those haka and just they weren't a presence here at all, whereas previously I feel like they'd been totally overdone.
Yes, I think that's. I think it's found its rightful place now. It's that has been noticed here too. It's the absence thereof, and we're pleased about that because it spoiled what's a wonderful tradition when used appropriately.
Yeah, well, no one here was saying what a shame we're not seeing more haka.
And finally, another sport. Did you catch any of the Super 15 final? We're sort of hurting a bit on that one as well. Another silver.
Yeah, in the last second too. You can't trust those Aussies. They found that out over here a bit as well. They're quite good when the pressure goes on, we've noticed. Talking to some of the athletes about it, they think it's because their squads are stronger, so more often they're put in situations where they've got to perform right at their best under pressure, whereas New Zealand are not having to do that so often.